I've got to say the state of this road is much nicer. I considered taking my shoes off and I went, no, because the pace of these boys at the moment is a lot quicker. Since Batman's lost that weight, he's really moving a lot more, a lot better. So I dare say we're going to be walking a little further like we did the other day. And I mean, Batman's even wanting to play ball, play a lot more, but it does look like he's developed diabetes. Having some testing done tomorrow, the vets thought it was pretty urgent to do it because we're going to have to figure out what dosage of insulin he's going to need. And so they do it. We've got to do some tests all day tomorrow. I don't remember walking at this pace for a long time. That man's even broken out into a little trot every now and then. But now, just getting that bit of weight off him has really energized him. I'd still like to get a couple, I would say, maybe another kilo and a half off him, bring him down to about somewhere between 8 and 9. And he wouldn't have any sort of excess weight on his joints, especially his back legs. But I don't want him to be sick either. Batman's setting the pace and he's breaking into another trot. Sam's got a canter going. Okay, we'll slow down. Looks like my trip into work today should be quite speed restricted, depending on how far the police are travelling in front of me. But I shouldn't need to speed. I've left early enough today. Apparently there's a special meeting this morning in Muster that they've asked especially Federation members to be present at. So I'll have to see how that goes ahead. Home yesterday, have testing done on Batman at the vet. And it's confirmed that stint where Batman gained weight because of his surgery and his injuries and couldn't get it off because he was still a gut, has led to him getting full-blown diabetes. He all of a sudden just started drinking copious amounts of water. He lost close to 2 kilos in a matter of weeks. And you could see and feel the weight difference, and see it because he became a lot more active. Like he wanted to play ball in the afternoon, and on the weekend he jogged a lot more during the walk. So having that excess weight off him has been great, but it obviously just came too late because of the injury to his leg, that he became a full-blown diabetic, and his sugar levels were like super high. Took him in, and the first thing they did was take his blood sugar so they could work out how much insulin to give him. And his blood sugar levels said 33 plus. She said the gauge on the glucose meter for the dogs didn't go any higher. So I just said 33 plus. Gave him some insulin. We took him home, Brought him back 2 hours later to have his blood checked again. It had dropped to 29.2, took him home, came back 2 hours later, 25.8, took him home, came back 2 hours later, 23.4, I think. They said a good level for dogs is anywhere between like 5 and 16, or maybe 8 and 16, something like that. He now has to have insulin injections morning and night, so 12 hours apart. So I do it just like after breakfast and after dinner because they're roughly the same time. And they said we don't really need to keep checking his levels. His levels were coming down comfortably, but they didn't just plummet, but they were coming down. So they said he should be okay. It won't be anything to worry about. Just start giving him his insulin, and in 2 weeks' time we've got to go back in and check his levels again. They discussed getting... Have you seen those glucose monitors for diabetics now that is like a little thing that sticks to the skin, has a little needle or something that goes in, and you can scan it with your phone and see what your levels are throughout the day, and they last for about 2 weeks. There's a version that they've had tested that works really well with dogs, a particular brand, and she showed us loads of pictures of dogs and cats online with these monitors because it's easier than trying to take blood daily. And apparently with the little, like the blood test monitor that you get with the, where it sticks you, which my wife's got, you're supposed to do that either in the dog's ear or in their foot pads, which you imagine jabbing your dog's foot pads all the time. Poor things. Mind you, I've got to give an insulin injection in his neck twice a day. We're investigating one of those little devices. They said they'll last about a week on a dog because the dogs roll around and they end up falling off. But they shave a bit of the skin, stick it on, and that way you can monitor it over a week and see how their levels are going, and then just continue your insulin over the following weeks or whatever. I'm really glad that Batman is pretty good with needles. He's never really had an issue with if you heard that, that was a restored Mini, like a 1970s Mini. And he's obviously done an alright job on it. He's got little racing wheels on it. It's nice. My mum had a Mini when I was a kid. I used to practice driving it around. Anyway, Batman's pretty good with being given needles. He was even very good with the doctor having to take his blood from his leg. Did it five times yesterday, 4 times yesterday. As long as you just reassure him and keep him calm, he's fine with it. I mean, the first one, she brought the nurse in, and the nurse basically smothered him on the table, and he hates that. And he just started being even worse. And when we came back, my wife said, look, let me hold him. And she kept him comfortable. She held his leg, put a thumb on his elbow, or in front of his elbow, to help his vein pop up for the vet. I just kept his head still, and that was just by patting him. I didn't have to hold him tight. And took the blood fine. And so we just did that each other time. So last night, after dinner, I got his first insulin shot ready. He was sitting at the doorway of the kitchen. I bent down, gave him a little pat, a bit of the scruff, and he was fine. Actually, because he got a needle, he was expecting a treat. So I gave him a carrot. He loves carrots. And this morning, I just gave him his injection after breakfast before, while I was getting ready. He was okay with it. So it's going to be a long-term thing. And I don't know what insulin costs for adults, like for people, but one of his insulin vials costs, I think, about $134. They said that should last him between like close to 40 days. So it's not too bad. It's still going to be an expense over the year, but he's my boy. You spend your money on your children, and we spend the money on their food, and they eat better than us, I think. That's the update with him. He's 10 years old, or he turns 10 this year, and so the vets did say, like, dogs are quite susceptible to getting diabetes as adults. And we were saying, like, so it's type 2 diabetes, you can sort of reverse it with diet. And she said no, it's actually quite common, quite often, a type 1 diabetes, which we think is really weird. But they said, yeah, it's a type 1, not a type 2. So he's not likely to have his diabetes reversed like people can do with type 2 diabetes through diet and exercise. We just got to keep an eye on him, and that his blood sugar, like, he doesn't seem to just drop. Like they said, if you notice him suddenly really lethargic when he probably shouldn't be, smear some honey on their gums. Or we said, like, what about things like apple or orange, because he really likes those, or blueberries, they're good for dogs, he loves those. Something like that, she said, fine. Just finished with year 8. Their pinball projects are coming along. I've got my sample here, although we've scaled it down a little bit from the original plan we saw, so some parts are scaled down, but I think I've left the legs a little bit too long because that's fairly steep. But that can always be shortened later. I started assembling my little flip pieces. We've got 2 classes running here in the moment. This is the stuff for the other class. One class, the stuff is in this box, this cupboard, to try and keep it separated. Their participation and their enthusiasm ebbs and flows. Sometimes they're really excitable and they work really well. Sometimes they're subdued and they work really well. Sometimes they're excitable and they don't work well. So that's the joy of working with teenagers. They still need a little bit of practice cleaning up, because I'm often running around picking up the tools and those sort of things, but it's usually done before the bell, so that's at least one plus. They do get stuff done reasonably well, but could be done better. I've got year 11 this afternoon, had year 10 this morning. Year 11, trying to get them prepped for the white card course, which is 2 weeks' time. Yeah, I've got to run it on the Monday. So I was going to try and do some other cleanup in here, but one thing I do have to do is this rack is busted, so I'm just going to try and glue and screw it together so that I can put the tools back in it without them falling down. So ends another day with year 11. I really thought that we were going to get started into prac today, because I had, I think, at least 4 students who had done all of their safety tests, which is the main thing before doing the prac. Yes, they've got N awards for all the other stuff that they've got to try and get signed up for, but they can do that in their own time. Some were doing that, some were doing nothing, some were helping others, which is fine. I don't mind that. Look, I know they're only year 11 students, but some can have a lack of maturity about what they need to do, and how they should be in the classroom sometimes. I'd really like to start prac with them, but some of them just aren't taking that opportunity. And I'm going to be relieving for the deputy tomorrow, which is the next time I've got this class, so they've got time to go to the library and complete all this stuff that they've got to do. I hope they take that opportunity, but there's a fair chance they probably won't. We'll see. I could be discounting them with no real reason to. We'll see what happens. When I went out to the start of construction, there was a weird look to the light on the ground, and I thought, that really looks like this sun's coming through smoke. So when I got around to the gates, I looked up, and what I could see was just very light white coming over the school in little areas. So I went, well, that's just cloud, but why does it look like the sun is coming through smoke? And now I know why. Because there is a lot of smoke. And I checked the Fires Near Me app, which had notifications that they're actually doing some hazard reduction burns in the Blue Mountains National Park. And now that I'm here, I can see it actually coming up out of like the gully around Glenbrook area and that sort of stuff. So that explains that. It's a fairly calm day, so I can understand why they would choose today. It's also not very hot, so hopefully they manage to maintain control of it, because I would hate for it to get out of control. I might see if the when I've stopped, whether the Fires Near Me app actually has a location that's more pinpointing on their map or something like that. But right now I'm making a pit stop off the freeway to buy more dog kibble, because I think, as I've said before, there's only 2 places in Sydney that sell the BioPet vegan dog kibble that my dogs eat, and one of them happens to be just near Penrith. The other one's down in the city. It's good big bag, so it lasts a long time, and it's much better quality than some of the other stuff that you buy at the shops. We actually had our vets check the ingredient list, and one of the vet we had check our ingredient list was a vet over in Gladesville that we got referred to quite a while back, because one of the head vets there was a top veterinary surgeon, and he actually taught veterinary surgery at Sydney University. I believe it was Sydney. Anyway, very highly regarded vet who knows his stuff, and he looked over the ingredient list of this food, this kibble, and he said, that stuff's excellent. That's really good for your dogs. And our dogs have had very long lifespans. Must be doing something right with it. These little guys. Check out those little guys. See all those ones along the rock? Tiny, 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 tiny tadpoles. The scale, there's my boot. That's like, this was like one of the smaller puddles in the pond. I've just been putting these mosquito bits in to stop because there's mosquito wrigglers in here. I tell you what, the bigger
tadpoles are definitely a lot more wary. There's one just there. And they will hide in the silt at the bottom of the pond. Just see that one that just wriggled there? It's a really dark one, then there's that light one just there. And he's watching me. I'll stop stressing him. We've got a couple in that pond, or up to 6 that I've seen. I've seen a few in that one. I've seen about 6 in this whole complex. And they're taking a long time to mature. I think I've seen 3 with legs. Oh, there goes one. Down in there. Oh, there's... Oh, see that one go?